Ari Shapiro. The movie I took this as an amazing opportunity to look at our whole lives and think about how much joy our child would bring.
No, we can't say our child.
What?
No, you have to say the baby or your baby. You can't just assume that it's our child already.
Okay. Dom and Cole want to adopt a baby. As they film their appeal to the birth mom, they try earnestness.
And we know that choosing parents for your child is a very complicated decision, so we just want to thank you for considering.
Can you do the pasta?
And silliness.
Okay.
Please give us your baby.
And with that as the opening scene, the movie gallops off in a surprising direction. Dom and Cole fly to Italy before a baby arrives, and their dream vacation becomes a disaster. The movie becomes a horror comedy with a staggering body count. This has to be the last one.
Absolutely. I don't want to do this anymore.
No, this can't be like a thing we start doing in L.A.
Nick Kroll and Andrew Rannells star as the married couple Dom and Cole, and they told me that audition video was based on something the two of them created as a sort of sizzle reel for the movie.
It's sort of a way to distill the idea of Andrew and I as a couple, the vibe, the sort of tone of what we were trying to go for. We shot that together. It was obviously very fun and became so kind of fun and useful that then we put it into the film itself. Not that actual sizzle reel, but a version of what we had shot.
You two have collaborated on a lot of projects together. The animated TV show Big Mouth, the Broadway show All In. I think this is the first time you've played husbands. Do you find your off-screen dynamic is sort of that of a married couple, even if one of you is actually married to a woman in real life?
It was. I mean, it is in a lot of ways. The thing that was a real gift of our partnership, but as we were making this, was that Nick and I are both pretty even-keeled, but you know, we were working under some sort of, at times, some rather extreme circumstances in terms of a lot of stunts and at night. And I really feel like we took turns getting impatient, and any time that I started to get a little tense, Nick would bring me a snack. Nick would make me laugh, and I hope that.
And Andrew, what would you do when Nick got impatient?
Well, I would. He liked candy, so I would get him some candy, or maybe like a little espresso. We didn't murder anyone, which I think is the big key point. Nick and I did not actually. Yeah. But yeah, I think that our friendship really grew in the course of making this because it really did reflect, in some ways, what this couple was going through.
I agree. I would just add that like we did switch back and forth the dynamic between Cole and Dom. The characters that we play is one seems slightly more grounded, and one is a little more prone to diving hysterics. Right. And I would say that Andrew and I sort of alternated in those roles with each other, depending on who needed it most that day. And I really do think it translated into the film.
See, I was wondering if filming it in Italy was kind of like an Italian honeymoon experience off camera, but it sounds like off camera maybe it was closer to the nightmare that the movie itself.
Well, in a lot of ways, we did start in Rome, and we did a lot of like really beautiful, like walking down the street in front of the Spanish Steps and Trevi Fountain, and all of that was all really fun and beautiful.
Spanish
and then it very slowly crept into
Yeah, but
the
Spanish
reality of what we were filming. So
Where
we
is
did
my
a little
Spanish
both.
stuff?
We had some good dinners. We ate a lot of carbonara.
Yeah.
Cusco
The
Bridge.
writer and director couple are
Read
themselves
Cusco Bridge,
very
right? Minute.
correct. Yeah, Brian Crano. Were there any moments on set that you felt like the two of them were reflecting the spousal dynamic that you were playing on screen back at you?
The truth is that it's largely based on their experiences. One, they were trying to adopt a child and were scammed. They were truly scammed. Really? Yeah, like our characters in the film. And when you meet us at the beginning of the film, our characters are, a few months out of getting scammed. They think they're going to get a baby that they've been trying to adopt, and it turns out that some person had falsified these papers. There was no baby. And that really happened to David and Brian. And they also had a nightmare vacation in Italy where they got like stuck in a ditch and sprayed with mud, and everything went wrong.
I had no idea this was so grounded in reality.
Yeah,
It seems so far-fetched.
I know.
Except Ari for the murder. Once again,
Right.
David and Brian, as far as we know, did not murder anyone. on that trip.
They merged these two things that really happened to them into a movie, and really, in the film, Andrew and I find out that we are going to be able to finally adopt a child, Amanda Seyfried's child. Not actually Amanda Seyfried, the actress, but she plays
Mama.
I know.
I
We
know.
would have killed everybody.
It's a cute kid.
So we find out during the trip that we're going to be able to adopt her baby, and so we are now on a mad dash to get back. And really, the movie is a metaphor for what you will do to get your child. If you're a couple, in the case of David and Brian, like, you'll do anything to finally have that opportunity, and David and Brian found a very clever way to express that in raising the stakes just a little bit.
There was one question that kept popping into my head as the plot kind of becomes more and more absurd and things go more and more off the rails. And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but the question I kept having was, how did this get made?
It's a great question. It's a great question. And, you know, honestly, I'm not sure if we have a succinct answer to that. It's not your typical rom-com.
It's not your typical anything,
horror
really.
film. No, it's not. It's you know, one of the reasons that I was really excited about it is that it didn't really fit into the normal, like, gay genre of film or queer cinema. Like, it also didn't really, I couldn't find anything that also looked like that in that canon. So that was exciting, and I have to imagine that all of those pieces together, that everything's just a little off-center on this film, and I think that's what perhaps attracted the kind folks that gave us the money to make this film.
The movie's out now. Big Mouth is about to end its 8-season run. Do the two of you now have to go back to just being ordinary friends, or do you have some other plot up your sleeves to work together?
I would solely work with Nick for the rest of my career if that was an option.
I mean, if it was like a Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney situation.
Mickey Rooney.
Yeah.
Do I even need to ask you two?
Am I Judy? I might be Judy, depending on the day.
There's a little Judy in all of us.
Yeah. And my weight fluctuation, maybe more of a Mickey.
Yeah. God willing, we'll get back to the studio system where we're under contract at GM for 40 years, and we can just keep making movies together. And maybe there will be room for I Don't Understand You Too.
I still don't understand you.
I still don't
understand you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You can have that for free.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You heard it here.
Andrew Rannells and Nick Kroll star in the movie I Don't Understand You, which is out now. You guys, it's been so great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ari.
What's up, people? What's up?
It's WNYC. There's more All Things Considered just ahead. We're going to hear from a senior research fellow in the Border Security and Immigration Center at the Heritage Foundation about federal efforts to enforce immigration law. That's coming up in just a moment here on All Things Considered. News headlines are up next. It's hot outside, 84 degrees right now in New York City. We'll see temperatures probably in the mid-60s overnight tonight. It'll be even hotter tomorrow. Temperatures reaching the upper 80s, potentially the low 90s tomorrow afternoon. Should start to cool down after that with rain in store for us for the weekend. Stick around at WNYC on a Wednesday. It's 4:30.
Imagine people getting as passionate about meaningful change as they are about pop stars or sports teams. On the next All of It, we'll talk with climate activist and musician Adam Metz. His new book is titled Amplify, and it's a how-to for creating a fan base around social movements. Plus, after Dule Hill, he's playing Nat King Cole in Lights Out at the New York Theater Workshop. I'm Allison Stewart. Join us for All of It weekdays at noon on WNYC.
Leadership support for WNYC comes from the Jerome L. Green Foundation, a proud supporter of New York City's major cultural institutions providing scholarships in the arts, education, and medicine.
If you believe democracy requires a free press, your station is WNYC, 93.9 FM and AM 820, NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Lambo Bridge is coming up.
Live from NPR News in Culver City, California, I'm Dwayne Brown. President Trump says a trade deal with China is, quote, done after negotiations Fang has been following the talks.
China says its talks with the U.S. were, quote, reasonable and substantial, resulting in 55% tariffs on Chinese goods and 10% on U.S. goods going to China. Trump wrote on Truth Social that as part of the trade negotiations, China would supply rare earth minerals it has a monopoly in producing, quote, up front. Rare earths had been a key sticking point, and China had cut off much of its exports to the U.S. and Europe. Trump also appeared to reverse an earlier announcement from the State Department that it would start revoking visas for Chinese students, writing, quote, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. Emily Fang, NPR News.
More than 10,000 Southern Baptists are in Dallas for their annual meeting. The nearly 13 million member denomination has passed a series of resolutions on social issues, including same-sex marriage and gender identity. Bob Smintana of Religion News Service has more.
Southern Baptist delegates, known as messengers, passed a resolution urging the Supreme Court to overturn the Obergefell decision to legalize the marriage.
Began to take hold. Consumer prices increased 2.4% in May compared with a year ago. While the cost at the gas pump fell, groceries, toys, and large appliances rose. This is NPR.
And it's on WNYC in New York. I'm Sean Carlson. It's currently 84 degrees at 4:32. Police have recovered a body from the East River. That authorities believe it's that of a 2-year-old boy who has been missing for a month. That's according to a law enforcement source with direct knowledge of the investigation. Police say Montreal Williams was last seen on May 10th in Hunts Point. They say he'd been with his father for a court-approved visit, but was never returned to his mother. The father was brought in for questioning after allegedly failing to return the boy, but has not been charged with the crime. Congressmember Mikey Sherrill and former lawmaker Jack Ciattarelli will face each other in November after winning their primaries for governor in New Jersey. Sherrill fought off a crowded field of 5 other Democratic candidates. She addressed her supporters in a victory speech last night.
You guys know I am not going to put up with the incompetent, whiny nonsense coming from aggrieved MAGA Republicans.
Former state representative Jack Ciattarelli, who was fighting with President Trump last month, won his primary in all 21 counties. In his victory speech, he called it hundreds of thousands more New Yorkers could soon qualify for half-price subway and bus rides. City Council Speaker Adrian Adams and other council members are pushing to
dinner party and asked, hey, I've been away, what's going on in LA? How would you answer?
Well, business as usual. I think it was predictable that increased enforcement or any enforcement of immigration law in the interior after 4 years of basically ignoring the law would have an impact on major cities, and sooner or later there were going to be demonstrations. There was going to be, something like the May 2020 riots, demonstrations, whatever you want to call them, public displays of unhappiness. And Los Angeles...
You're talking about people in the streets after the George Floyd situation.
Yes, exactly.
I guess my question, just to jump in, if I were, again, asking you what's happening in LA right now, is it going, in your view, is it going well? Is it going poorly? Anything surprising you?
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. I think the enforcement is going well on the whole, but in California, obviously, it's hit a bit of a political obstacle. What we're seeing is the city of Los Angeles and the state of California resisting federal efforts to enforce immigration law. And we're not talking about presidential directives here, executive orders. We're talking about immigration law passed by Congress, a bipartisan law signed by presidents, Democrat as well as Republican.
So, you started to answer this, but I'll just put it to you directly. To those who argue, look, this is the Trump administration who is now claiming credit for averting a crisis, for tamping down violence, but this was perhaps a crisis of the administration's own making. There weren't any protests in LA until ICE agents went in. What do you say?
Well, I guess if you take that line of reasoning, then what you're saying is the federal government cannot enforce immigration law. And if they do, the price is there'll be violence in the street. Now, that's sort of an extortion, really, by a state, a nullification of federal law. And I do understand that the president he's making a stand here, but that he can probably see that this will happen in other cities.
The president has taken some unusual steps in LA, and I want to ask you specifically about sending active duty military over the objections of state and local leaders. In your view, is that justified?
I think it's justified when you have a threat to federal property and when you have local authorities that are unwilling to keep the peace and to protect lives. We saw in Portland in 2020 a federal building was taken over. We saw federal property damaged. We saw a lot of people injured and a couple $1 billion worth of property damage. There's already been some looting and some property damage in Los Angeles, and I think that's something that the administration really wants to avoid this time.
And I'll note that there were seeing reports of fewer clashes Tuesday night. A curfew has kicked in. 200 plus people were arrested. That's LAPD statistics. Local law enforcement says we've got this. We can handle it.
Well, maybe they say that now, but what would they have said had there been no federal response whatsoever? We saw it in 2020. We've seen it other periods. Local officials essentially letting these things burn out. Now, let's just let them burn some cars and trash some buildings and then go afterwards. And this time it died down much quicker, and I think the real threat that there would be an active federal presence was what caused local authorities to crack down earlier than they would, for example, with the curfew that Mayor Bass put on.
I mean, I guess if the goal is law and order, if the goal is avoiding ending chaos, I suppose we should note that protests have spread to cities across the country. We're seeing reports from Seattle, from Dallas, from Chicago, from Boston. So what counts as victory here?
I think tactically, victory is that the riots, or the demonstrations rather, don't get out of control, that people are allowed to demonstrate peacefully, they're allowed to express their opinions, but that we don't have wide-scale looting, property damage, and the ruining of lives in generally poor and underprivileged or business parts of our major cities. That would be a tactical victory. The strategic victory would be that we once again go back to enforcing our immigration law and not ignoring it.
Simon Hankinson of the conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Mary Louise.
Two people accused of stealing groceries in an upstate suburb are now facing deportation. WNYC's Jimmy Vilkheim reports the arrest highlights the consequences when local police cooperate with federal immigration agents.
2121 speed by 12. It started as a routine police call for shoplifting.
1400 Altamont Avenue, the Hanford. We have a Hispanic couple with a stroller loaded up with merchandise.
Officers in Rotterdam, a town of about 30,000 outside Schenectady,
found two people in the cramped security office of a local grocery store one morning this March. Staff said the suspects, Michael and Maria, took things like rice, beans, bread, and olive oil. They hid them under a stroller carrying Maria's child. The total value was $159. But a relatively minor charge escalated when officers checked Michael's ID.
You are?
In this country, the police officer.
He provided an expired ID showing he was a police officer in Nicaragua.
How long?
People are often ticketed rather than arrested when accused of shoplifting. Police only take suspects in if they can't verify their identity.
I'm kind of torn to... That's a good idea.
The patrol officer called his supervisor. A detective called ICE.
Because this guy's got the police ID and stuff, he said, he goes, don't do anything with them until I call you back.
What you just heard is one of the first known cases under the federal Laken-Riley Act in New York State. President Trump signed it into law earlier this year.
The Department of Homeland Security will be required to detain all illegal aliens who have been arrested for theft, burglary, larceny, shoplifting, assaulting a police officer, murder.
But according to Lauren DeRosier, who runs the immigration clinic at Albany Law School, the statute only places requirements on federal officers who learn about arrests. It doesn't require local police departments to call ICE.
I think it's a very sad case, and I think that it demonstrates how quickly things can escalate for people who have immigration status.
يوم 17 أسود وخذوا بكرة أكتوبر وينعاد شهر أكتوبر وينعاد كل مواليد شهر أكتوبر ويجعلكم سبب. Issued a detainer request, like with Michael and Maria, police would have to stand down.
New York for all together. Thank you.
Hundreds of people keep coming to the state capitol to demonstrate in support of the legislation, which would basically make New York a sanctuary.
The socialists like Zoran here tweets that the NYPD is...
If we have a federal government that is hell-bent on moving with cruelty instead of love, then we don't need to help them.
Yep.
We have a responsibility to resist.
Welcome.
We're still pushing for some kind of action in the final days of Albany's lawmaking session. But top Democratic leaders, including Governor Kathy Hochul, haven't signed on. Hochul is trying to walk a fine line on immigration cooperation.
I want to make sure we get rid of people who are seriously committing crimes, but leave the rest alone. They already made it here. They're part of our family, and this is where it's a huge divide.
The Trump administration is cracking down on sanctuary jurisdictions, and Hochul will testify before Congress later this week about New York's immigration policies. In Albany, GOP lawmakers support a bill that would require local police departments to call ICE if they arrest an undocumented immigrant. State Senator Andrew Lanza represents Staten Island. He says departments who don't call are essentially obstructing justice.
Sanctuary state means we're not complying with federal law.
He renamed his state, though, after the Laken-Riley law. If an immigrant already broke the law to enter the U.S., Lanza says any subsequent offense is worse.
To me, it's even more egregious. You have somebody that not only broke into the country, but now you're committing a crime.
For now, municipalities around New York State have a hodgepodge of rules. Rotterdam police leaders say they don't have a specific policy on dealing with non-citizens. But in the case of Michael and Maria, they proactively call ICE. Officers took Michael back to the station without incident. They charged him with shoplifting and endangering the welfare of a child because Maria's 3-year-old daughter was with the couple at the grocery store. But the arrest took a turn when officers handed Michael over to federal agents. Surveillance footage shows he slipped out of his handcuffs and tried to walk away. 6 federal and local police officers used a taser to rearrest Michael. Court records allege an ICE agent suffered a bruised jaw. Michael is charged with assaulting a federal officer. During the scuffle, he kept shouting out in Spanish that he had ID. He says, I have a social security number, immigration papers. The officers didn't respond. Michael is currently at a jail near Albany. His federal case is pending, and his lawyer declines to comment.
Maria and her daughter first came to Rotterdam in 2023. They were bused to a motel there by New York City officials after immigrating from Colombia. Maria's legal representative declined to comment, but she's now in federal custody without her child.
We're gonna get mommy, I promise.
Body camera footage captures the girl crying in the back seat of a police cruiser as her mother was being processed. Police turned her over to social services. Jimmy Vielkind, WNYC News.
Stay with us. There's more All Things Considered just ahead. If you can believe it, we're just 2 weeks out from the New York City mayoral primary. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to break it all down in our weekly politics brief segment coming up next here on All Things Considered. We have a short break first. Right now it's 84 degrees in New York City, sunny out. It's going to be even hotter tomorrow. Temperatures reaching the upper 80s, potentially the low 90s by the afternoon. It's WNYC. It's Wednesday, just before 4:50.
On the next Brian Lowe Show, as our New York primary coverage continues, we'll tell you about the most competitive city council and borough president races, those in which your vote might matter the most this primary season. And we'll preview the 7 candidate mayoral debates that I'll be moderating with Errol Lewis from New York One and Katie Honan from the news organization The City. Also, historian Peniel Joseph on the importance of 1963. The Brian Lowe Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
If you have a disability or are a caregiver, New York Public Radio's Independent Community Advisory Board wants to hear from you. Join the CAB Wednesday, June 18th at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom to share your feedback. Details at wnyc.org/CAB.
WNYC's Morning Edition is holding a practice ranked choice ballot election that we're calling Bagel Election 2025. Go to WNYC.org/bagel vote and cast your choice for New York's most iconic bagel. Then tune in on Friday to hear who emerges as the victor. May the best bread win. Bagel Election 2025 is not an actual election. Results may or may not be delicious.
It's All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Sean Carlson. It's Wednesday, and it's time for Politics Brief, our weekly segment where we break down the news out of City Hall and Albany. Today, we're joined by WNYC's John Campbell in Albany and Elizabeth Kim in our downtown Manhattan studios. All right, Liz, let's start here in the city. The New York City mayoral primary is less than 2 weeks away. Early voting starts on Saturday. We saw the protests against President Trump's immigration policies intensify in Lower Manhattan last night, in part in response to the activation of the National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles. What are the mayoral candidates saying about all this?
They're saying quite a lot, actually. I was with Andrew Cuomo this morning in Harlem, and he's delivering some of his strongest statements yet about Trump since he entered the race. You know, he said that the president is trying to divide cities. He basically framed this as an authoritarian attack on cities. Now, Cuomo is the moderate frontrunner in the race, but his remarks on Trump are becoming pretty aligned with his left-leaning opponents. Some of those opponents are trying to use their elected office to intervene. For example, City Controller Brad Lander last week escorted 3 families out of federal immigration court. He felt that his presence there could deter ICE from arresting individuals. The City Council Speaker, Adrienne Adams, this week demanded an investigation into the possible collaboration between the NYPD and ICE. And then you have Zohran Mamdani. He is the most left-leaning candidate in the race. You might remember he had a viral moment a few months ago when he was trying to confront Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, in Albany. looking ahead, I think what's interesting will be whether Mamdani and Lander choose to attend one of the protests. They did go to the Newark rally for Mayor Rod Baraka, who was detained and arrested by federal agents. Would they attend a protest in New York City days before the election? I asked those campaigns, and they said that they're deliberating it.
Yes, and Liz, up here in Albany, Governor Hochul, in contrast, has been pretty quiet about those protests in California and New York. She did her fellow Democratic governors where they decried the president's decision to summon the National Guard in California over the governor's objection. But that's the extent of what she said.
Speaking of Governor Hochul, John, you wrote this week about Zohran Mamdani's plan to tax the rich. Now that would put him in direct conflict with the governor. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Zohran Mamdani wants free buses in New York City. He wants city-owned grocery stores. He wants universal child care. All of that costs money, and his plan to pay for that includes putting this extra 2% tax on people who earn $1 million or more in the city, or who are New York City residents. And Governor Hochul, that puts them in contrast. That puts the two of them in contrast because Governor Hochul hasn't increased income taxes since she took office and has been very steadfast against it. Now, I asked State Democratic Chairman Jay Jacobs about that this week. He's a big Hochul ally, and he said, Zohran's got some good ideas, like that plan for fare-free buses, but Jay Jacobs says Hochul's anti-tax hike policy is the right one here.
I'm not so sure that he'll be raising the money that he thinks the 2% increase will yield if the people expected to pay.
He sure did, and he said it many times. He ran, as some listeners might remember, on this idea that New York City was a tale of two cities.
Oh, yeah.
And raising taxes on the rich was something that was always core to his ideology. He really never wavered from that mantra, and he's very similar to Mamdani in that respect. Now, how did Bill de Blasio try to get it done? He put a lot of pressure on Cuomo to do it. But John, as you recall, Cuomo wasn't having it, right?
Yeah, he did not tax the rich at that point in time. Cuomo made other state money available to pay for this universal pre-K, so de Blasio got the pre-K, but he didn't get the tax on the rich.
Now, Andrew Cuomo is the leading Democratic mayoral candidate in the polls, and he scored a big endorsement this week. Liz, who is the latest big name to come to the Cuomo camp?
It is former Mayor Michael Bloomberg. He came out and endorsed Andrew Cuomo. It's a very big endorsement, in part because when you think about sort of the Uber managers, I think when people think about Michael Bloomberg, two things come to mind. He's a billionaire, and he was a very good manager. And that's something that even candidates running for mayor will often invoke his name. But it was still a surprising endorsement because, at least publicly, Bloomberg has tried to stay out of the mayoral primaries. Now, he did not endorse in the 2021 primary. He did go on to endorse Eric Adams in the general, right? So this was an interesting moment, this decision by him to endorse Cuomo. I will describe it as, a marriage, the relationship between the mayor and governor. His marriage with Cuomo was rocky at times, but clearly not as spectacularly dramatic as the one he had with Bill de Blasio. But in his statement, Bloomberg talked about his relationship with Cuomo, and he said, quote, "I served with 4 New York governors and had differences with all of them, including Cuomo. But I also know his strengths as a leader and a manager." So, I think that this kind of endorsement could play well with a lot of people who remember Bloomberg fondly.
And Andrew Cuomo picked up another endorsement this morning. That would be former Governor David Paterson. That one's a little bit less of a surprise. Andrew Cuomo and David Paterson have been allies in the years since Paterson left office.
John, before we go, let's talk about Governor Hochul a little bit more here. She's heading to Washington to testify before Congress tomorrow. What are we going to hear from her?
Yeah, she's testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee about the state's sanctuary policies. Former Governor Cuomo issued an executive order that limited local police's ability to cooperate with federal immigration authorities in a lot of instances. And Governor Hochul re-upped that order when she took over as governor in 2021. But Hochul's not going to be appearing alone on this panel tomorrow. She's going to be with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, the former vice presidential candidate, and Illinois Governor J.D. Pritzker, who both of these have pretty high profiles among governors. It's possible she could get overshadowed here, and I think she'd be just okay with that.
Okay. Well, a reminder to listeners here that WNYC will be co-hosting tomorrow's second and final Democratic mayoral primary debate. Our own Brian Laird will be one of the moderators. It's going to be live from John Jay College at 7 p.m. That is Politics Brief. If you want to answer questions or keep hearing more from our politics team, be sure to sign up for emails at gotham.com/Ice
cold water.
Thanks so much. It's a busy couple of weeks.
Thanks,
Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Pizza.
To remind you that, yes, we are in the midst of election season, and this election year, WNYC is traveling across the 5 boroughs to ask New Yorkers what you want to hear from candidates for City Hall. We're calling it Word from the Curb. Our next event is in Southeast Queens. It's going to be fun. We're going to be talking to stakeholders in the community, some elected officials. We're going to be talking to Ralph McDaniels. He was the host, the co-creator of the show Video Music Box. He's there on WNYC TV. He's a local out there. Join us at the Black Spectrum Theater in Memorial Wilkins Park. It's on Tuesday of next week, June 17th at 4 o'clock. You can reserve your free tickets by going to WNYC.org/events. We hope to see you out there. For tonight here in our area, it should be mostly clear. We're going to see temperatures around 70 degrees. For tomorrow, it'll be even hotter. Highs in the upper 80s, potentially low 90s by the afternoon. Some showers and thunderstorms are possible. You're listening to WNYC. It's Wednesday evening, just a minute before 5 o'clock.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from Progressive Insurance, home of the Name Your Price tool, so drivers can see coverage options at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Coverage match limited by state law. The Kresge Foundation. Established 100 years ago, the Kresge Foundation works to expand equity and opportunity in cities across America. A century of impact, a future of opportunity. More
Chinese spice
and Amazon Business, offering business buying services, from office supplies to IT essentials and maintenance tools, to help bring visions to life. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
WNYC FM, HD, and AM New York.
President Trump's signature domestic policy bill is estimated to add trillions to the deficit, and that's putting new focus on Republicans and their rhetoric about fiscal conservatism. I'm Sean Carlson, and this is All Things Considered on WNYC. Also coming up, images of demonstrators in Los Angeles carrying the Mexican flag have provoked a strong response from Republicans. You've had everyone from Stephen Miller to J.D. Vance accused the people who are carrying these flags of being foreign marauders. More on the use of the symbol as protests against President Trump's immigration raids continue. Also just ahead, the Beach Boys co-founder, songwriter, and producer Brian Wilson transformed pop music into high art and became America's answer to the Beatles, Lennon, and McCartney in the process. Brian Wilson has died. We'll remember him and his legacy and much more this hour. Stay with us. News headlines.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Spear. Federal prosecutors in Los Angeles are starting to roll out charges against people accused of violence during recent protests against immigration enforcement. New York Times, two men have been charged with release from domestic explosives during protests. The prosecutors say one of them is in the country illegally. U.S. Attorney Bill O'Reilly says those charges are exposing the business. We have FBI collecting
Ornsthorpe was in the courtroom.
This hearing was all about whether Trump's case, which was prosecuted in state court, can be moved to federal court, even after sentencing. The president's legal team argued essentially that prosecutors relied on evidence in trial related to Trump's official acts as president, and therefore this should be a federal case, even though the crime itself was committed while Trump was still a candidate in 2016. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office maintains it should stay with the case. A three-judge panel covered both sides of questions, sometimes skeptical, sometimes open. Also, did the unusual nature of this case, with no U.S. president had ever been convicted of a crime before. The panel will issue a ruling at a later date. Cal Armstrong, NPR News, New York.
Inflation in May was a bit lower than forecasters had expected. NPR's Bob Worcester reports on the government's latest cost of living report. Inflation remained relatively tame last month, even as President Trump's worldwide tariffs took effect. Falling prices at the gas pump helped offset rising prices at the grocery store. The overall cost of living rose just 0.1% in May, slightly less than forecasters had expected. Trump tariffs may have contributed to higher prices on things like appliances and toys, but overall, goods prices were flat during the month. The cost of clothing and new and used cars was down. Egg prices, which have been a pain point for many shoppers, continued to fall in May as the nation's flock of egg-laying chickens gradually recovers from widespread avian flu. Over the last 12 months, consumer prices have risen 2.4%. Scott Baker, News Washington.
Despite the somewhat weaker than expected inflation numbers, stocks lost ground on Wall Street today. The Dow was down a point, the Nasdaq fell 99 points, the S&P dropped 16 points. This is NPR.
And on WNYC in New York, I'm Sean Carlson. It's currently 84 degrees at 5:04. There's an extra set of eyes on the NYPD at protest this week. Officials from the city department's investigation are monitoring the NYPD's response to anti-ICE demonstrations.
Secretary of Interior, the great Doug Burgum. Mr. Secretary, it's so great to have you here. And boy, oh boy, so much investment in America, courtesy of President Trump. I saw Japan, a whole bunch of countries are coming in, and that means jobs and money to America.
Rita, John, great to be with you. Absolutely, under President Trump's agenda, things are happening that couldn't even imagined 6 months ago under President Biden. But I just stepped out of a press conference minutes ago with Energy Secretary Chris Wright, myself. We had 4 American companies, Sempra, Cheniere, Commonwealth, NextDecade. These are all large LNG, liquid natural gas exporters on the Gulf of America coast. And JERA, which is Japan's largest utility, they provide power to 30% of the country of Japan. So think of almost 40 million customers that they have over there. They just signed 20-year agreements. This is going to be about $10 billion a year for 20 years. Is a $215 billion impact over time on our GDP. So another big win for President Trump and for the U.S. Energy dominance. And of course, President Trump energy dominance means low prices at home, prosperity at home, and peace abroad. When we're selling energy to our friends and allies, they don't have to buy it from our adversaries. That's great for the world. That's great for America. It's great for American jobs. This is going to create over 53,000 jobs as they construct these export facilities down on the Gulf of America coast here. But exciting, and I literally just stepped out of the press conference to join you and your incredible crew. So hi to everybody, including the former governor, the governor.
Awesome. Yeah. One governor to a governor. Go ahead, Sadaki.
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Secretary, I'm so excited about what you and your team are doing in Syria. The economy is going to boom. And yes, it's because the tariffs will protect us, the tax cut will help us. But one of the most important things is regulatory reform and issuing permits. And I have to tell you, I had a group that I worked with going in 2 weeks ago, and your goal is to get those permits out as quickly as possible. And I think that's critical. Now, the Supreme Court just 2 weeks ago, I think, issued an opinion limiting the environmental...
I send you messages, you're not responding. You read it?
Okay.
Okay, see you.
Yeah.
Prepare.
Okay.
Be downstairs, see you soon.
we can get
Everybody going home now.
in 14 days.
5 o'clock.
Done in 28
Everybody
days.
going home.
People say
Penn
that's not
Station.
possible. Our team issued
Rush hour.
EA in 12 days.
Rush.
Mission, more time on task in 12 days than what we're going into some of these problems. This one, it took them a year to do it, where the paperwork just sat on one desk and got shuffled to the next. We believe that the product that we released is better, higher quality, more concentrated strike team working on that. There's ways where we can dramatically shorten this. And why are we doing this? We care about the environment. We're going to take care of just as well as before, but we're in an AI arms race against China. We've got to build more infrastructure. We've got to create more electricity. We've got to have more AI data centers. As we're bringing back
Everybody going home now. Rush hour.
Advanced manufacturing back to the U.S., we've got to get back in building stuff. We were just up in Alaska. That 800-mile gift to America, the Alaskan pipeline, the original one, was built in 28 months. They had to build a road. They were building it through the wilderness. They had to cross mountain peaks from sea level to 4,100 feet, 3 mountain ranges in 28 months. You can't get a permit, to build a pipeline in New England in 28 months. And so we just got to go back to, we know that we can do great things in this country. We know that we can build things safely and do it quickly. We can do that. We have got the capability, and under President Trump, we're determined to enable the great companies in America to do that.
Mr. Secretary, I know you hate windmills. I hate windmills. I talked to the president last week. He hates windmills. They're going to destroy Long Island. Is there anything that the consumers of Long Island can rise up and
I get snacks, I have water.
Well, they certainly can. They
These
certainly
guys
should. And part of it is because these have been sold in on the idea that somehow it's going to lower their electricity prices, when in fact it's exactly the opposite.
It's going to triple or quadruple.
Yeah, the most expensive electricity we produce is wind, and offshore wind is double the cost of onshore wind. And that's the all-in cost, because there wouldn't be a single one of these offshore projects that would have ever even been contemplated if it weren't for the incredibly egregiously large subsidies that were tax subsidies that were going to these projects. I mean, they wouldn't be built. So when in the big beautiful bill that's coming out right now, it's winding down and getting rid of these the subsidies where we were subsidizing intermittent, unreliable sources like wind and solar. And we were penalizing the reliable, affordable sources like natural gas. New York sits right next to Pennsylvania. I mean, it's a gift for that whole state and for the metro area to be that close to that big of an energy deal. And it's a 124-mile pipeline away, to be able to start bringing that LNG. Or not the LNG, but just that natural gas to New York, which will help improve secure supply and lower prices. So yes, consumers should make sure that they understand the full cost of this, and they should be saying, hey, we want reliable electricity. We're not going to pay triple. Germany went all wind and solar, and their consumers are paying 3 times as much for electricity. They've got 20% less.
They're destroying the ecology of Long Island. They're destroying the fisheries. They're hurting the birds. They're hurting the whales. I mean, it's going to triple the price of electricity.
Yes, on top, and New England's already got some of the highest prices of electricity in the country. So we're working hard to help everybody in New England by making sure that we can get low-cost, affordable electricity. And the way we got to do that is we got to get that Pennsylvania gas flowing up through New York into New England.
Rudy Washington. Mr. Secretary, good to speak to you again. I picked up, I guess 2 weeks ago, that you're going to be disposing of some government property. I would imagine this is...
Keep him one tomato because I'm going to pick up the Aya from school. That's the plan. Usually one tomato here. Then we're going to extend the life with it. Crumble cookie. No line crumble. pick up Ian from school. I'm gonna get pizza. So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue sky to me? So you think you can tell? So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue sky to man? Hello. Oh, we need to find a place where to put, like a place we agree, you know what I mean? Why you forget the keys again? No, because seatbelt, car seat, parking, a lot of issues. You're back. No parking, then you go to the pizza place, have to go park and come back. See, she's mad. Take a picture of her back. see if we go straight, we stuck in that place that was closed, and then we have to go around and around. Try that pizza place, the new one. If she's stuck on one place, you don't want to change. I try yesterday to take a different pizza place. She did not cooperate. She did not cooperate. She said no. No way, Jose. Remember that Korean deal, you want to get the new bread for mine? I need to do my hummus. Hummus place. Maybe I do tonight. Rarely send a sticker. Say no. Say go back to the channel. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. You see the dot? Yep.
Yeah, you know, there was a report that just came out, Chairman Jordan, that said that it looked like the only pardon of the, many pardons that we know came out there that looked like it was Joe Biden's signature is the one to Hunter, the one to Chairman Mark Milley, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, and also to Fauci, Dr. Fauci. Those three, have you heard that too? I mean, that leaves a lot of pardons that were signed by him.
Yeah, no, I'm not. And of course, under our Constitution, the pardon power is exclusive power of the president. I think the question is not so much whether he personally signed it or the audit plan, but whether he actually gave the official okay and made the actual decision. And again, I think that's the way you can prove that he did. And of course, I think it's only probably if we get somebody who will come forward and say yes. I saw so make a decision, do something without any other kind of authorization. Okay, from the president. Short of that, I don't know if we can prove it, but I do think it's interesting.
How is the strawberry, the organic strawberry is good?
Are saying what we all knew, at the time. It's funny because Jake Tapper made money telling us everything was fine. Money telling us everything wasn't fine. Such a deal for Jake Tapper.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Let's go to Rudy. Let's go to Washington, former deputy mayor.
I really feel that the American public hasn't taken this issue seriously enough. I mean, this could have very well been a coup. We're looking at somebody who opened up our country to borders to 15 million people, or more or less, I'm not sure, that were killers, rapists, every kind of criminal you can think of. And when I ask every elected official that has come through the studio, and I've asked them, give me a rational reason for why we're committing suicide to our country. And nobody can. This almost looks like a coup. We need to find out who was running this country.
Well, certainly it was 4 years where they made a deliberate, intentional decision to open up our border, not have a border. We know that, and the American people spoke clearly about what they really wanted on November 5th when they put President Trump back in the White House. So, yeah, we will just.
Do you have a band of
I think
chocolate?
it's interesting. You know, we have the 25th Amendment.
Yeah.
And the 25th Amendment, there's a part of this that says if a majority of the cabinet thinks that there's a problem, they can initiate a move to have the president, you know, he's not capable of handling the duties of the office. Instantly find out if there was any cabinet member who ever actually raised that.
Well, you know, doing construction or school. How are we gonna take care of it? It's a major construction. Step on the lights. Early, no?
Finish line.
for my fruit. I prepare money for my fruit.
Are you serious? Fruit
Yeah.
is $10.
I buy fruit from the street.
Fruit from the street is $4.
So I need one more bag. What? That? Where's my fruit? Give me. You had a good day today?
Yes.
What did you do today? A guitar?
Guitar and karate, but I hate the karate.
Karate is good. You learn how to kick some ass.
Yeah, but it's the worst because it smells bad, and you need to take off your shoes and socks, and then your feet become dirty. But
Maya, I see in the morning she kick ass. She's a karate and she did.
No, that's not. We didn't even learn that yet.
Is Maya have a hip hop like yours?
Yeah.
Or different? She has?
Yeah, but she has two.
Oh, she has two?
Like she has Thursday recession, and then she has the same as us.
Then why she doesn't have a uniform?
Because for her other one, that's why. For her other one, it's like that color. That's why she didn't wear a uniform.
Where's the guitar? Here, we have the guitar.
Any moment you're alive today. Dada, why are you alive today?
Oh, why not? Why not coconut is giant?
Dada, this is the shortcut way for us to
Miriam,
go.
can you close the light? Tell him bye-bye.
La 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 la
Tell him bye-bye, Miriam, tell him bye-bye. And close it because I'm driving.
So stop by.
I
What are
won't
you
stop.
doing today?
I am. Tell him
What are you
bye-bye.
doing today?
Tell him see you tomorrow.
What are you
Peace and
doing
love. Peace and love. See you
today?
tomorrow. What you doing? Stop it. Tell him see you tomorrow. Peace and love.
Are you serious?
Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow. One big happy family. Miriam is hiding. Mama is hiding. Whee!
Why are you hiding?
She's shy. Okay. See you tomorrow. Peace and love.